going all right.
Okay. If you're ready, we can get started.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So, firstly, I just want to start off by asking you some questions, about yourself, the business, and where you're right now specifically. And if it sounds like we can help, then we can take it from there. Sounds good?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And just to let you know, I'm writing some of this information down, just as a form of a good measure. So if you see my head, down a little, I'm just writing some information down. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So I guess firstly, I just wanted to ask, what exactly prompted you to book the call with us? I mean, after now we talked like 3, 4 times. Like, what was it that prompted you to book the call with us?
Um, just keeping an open mind.
And what does that mean?
Um, always interested to see what's out there and hear what you know other options have.
And what was it about maybe our conversation over the phone that maybe stood out to you?
I don't recall at this point.
hmm Okay, I understand. And do you know what this call is about?
It was about leads, but I don't remember all the specifics.
So essentially, it was just that I wanted to show you how I can essentially get you, new qualified showrooms, of course, with the people who are actually interested in, working with you. And that was the topic. Does that ring any bells to you right now?
Yeah, vaguely.
Half, half. Okay.
Mhm.
So just, I guess then, so I can get a better picture and a better understanding of yourself. Like, can you talk to me about your business? Like, what type of clients do you serve at the moment, Michael?
I have buyers. I have listings. It's new construction, first-time home buyer, resale, move-up buyer. I have a downsizer. Um, mm, mm, Entry luxury. It's kind of scattered.
So, like, quite an expansive, like I would say, well, I would say network of clients that you serve. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah,
hmm And Michael, how long have you been a realtor? I guess how long have you been running the business?
11 years.
11 years. And are you like happy with where you're currently at?
Um, I mean, the market locally has been a little slow, but aside from that,
hmm Now, you mentioned just a moment ago that you work with, luxury, first time buyers, sellers, construction. You mentioned a lot of things. I guess, do you have the average value of the property you're working with?
um, no, I mean, I've done this year a land deal as cheap as 100,000 up to, I think the highest this year is 670.
hmm Okay, I understand. And is there like a, realistically speaking, is there a, I would say, a goal in terms of like what would you want your average value of the property you work with like be, if that makes sense?
Um, for new marketing, I've been trying to keep it over five,
5,000 or 500,000?
500.
500. Okay. And I guess, Michael, are you like working alone in all of this, or do you have like a team or team members, or how does the structure look like?
Alone.
Alone.
So like,
And is it tough for you? Can you manage it all?
um, it depends. Sometimes if I'm trying to cover too much, uh, social, it brings me away from doing phone calls or just balancing, and or when I'm on vacation, it's a little rougher. But I've done the team models, and I didn't care for running the team or being on the team. So
hmm I understand. Right. And, you know, you mentioned that like I mentioned earlier, that you work with a lot of different clients. Like, I guess, do you have any wishes in which type of a niche area you would like to work in, if that makes sense?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, I prefer sellers in some regards, um, because they can be easier, but I also believe that buyers need representation. So I enjoy helping buyers navigate.
Hmm. And in the terms of sellers and buyers, are you looking to, regarding buyers, are you looking to work with first-time buyers to help them navigate, or how does that look like?
Um, it, as long as they're financially qualified, like I don't really want to nurse them for a year, or 6 months to get credit repair and all that. But if they're ready to go, somewhat understanding of what they want, I'm good with first time new construction, first time resale, up through move up, move down.
Hmm. And in terms of sellers, you have any preference in that area as well?
Um, I mean, if they're realistic, obviously, but aside from that,
What does realistic mean?
they understand what the value of the market is.
Hmm. Okay, I understand. And have you been facing a lot of people who are not realistic, I guess?
Um, it's hit or miss. I mean, depending on where the lead come from, is it a someone who actually is trying to sell, or they're just fishing? What their motivation truly is. Like, well, I'll sell it, but I'll sell it for 100K over market or 50K over market. I'm like, well, that's not you know. I understand why they're in that position, but that's not someone I really care to work with to beat them down or lie to them saying that that's I can get that value and only to bring it down after a few weeks.
Hmm. I understand. So in terms of you're talking about, pricing, they ask for too much. Those are the type of people you would like to avoid, correct?
I mean, if it's obscene, like if it's 10 grand or something, we can work with that. But if it's
Yeah,
you know
of course.
10%, then it's a different story.
Of course. I agree. So I guess just so I can kind of paint a picture, you mentioned, what type of people you want to work with. Is there like specifically talking here, is there a specific client you'd like to have the most out of? Someone that, if you had to take one pick, that is the type of a person you'd like to work with the most. Do you have anything like that?
No, not really. I'm
Hmm.
pretty open when it comes to that. I
Okay.
don't niche that far.
Okay. I understand. And I guess, you mentioned that you work in very various pricings. I guess in the terms of percentages that then you take from a closed deal, like what is the percentage that you take?
Um, Gross lately it's been closer to 2%.
Mm-hmm. 2%. And is there like a split that you make then, maybe with your brokerage or someone?
That's the um. It ends up being around two.
Okay, so 2% goes strictly to you.
Right before expenses and things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand. And I guess then, with everything that you have going on, in terms of money making per year, like what would you say? Where are you with the business right now in terms of yearly revenue?
Um, Last year was just over two.
200.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. And I guess how much do you want to be then, making in 12 months from now?
Um, Being realistic, probably three is where I'd be comfortable. I'm planning. I want to take some vacations this year, so I realize it's gonna dip into my goal if I was just going to work.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess then, Michael, in terms of problems and issues here, I guess what is stopping you from, getting to 300K per year right now, if anything?
Um, I mean, the main issue right now I have is I guess local market has just been downtrodden. So listings that we have that are priced appropriately given the market aren't moving. We're not getting showings, interest, etc. Market, putting marketing out there, getting views, but not turning those into showings or offers. Um, Inventory is coming up, but most of it's new construction. And my sellers don't want those properties to move into to sell theirs. So it's kind of just stymied at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And I guess why do you feel like the market is the way it is right now?
Um, there's a lot of external factors with inflation and tariffs now and uncertainty with the stock market. There's some people waiting for tax returns to use that money to make the next move. So it's just kind of a shell game.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And the problem with the market, I know that in various different places there are very different markets. I guess how long has this been an issue for you?
About 8 months.
8 months. Okay. And like, do you have any forecasts in terms of any ideas on how long is that going to be like this?
No, no crystal ball.
Okay. And I guess then during the last 8 months, how has this issue, how has that been for yourself, for the business in general?
Struggling.
Struggling. Okay, I understand. So I guess then regarding your market and how you work, like talk to me through your current process. Like what are you currently doing to get then appointments at the moment?
um, Open houses, do online leads, do pay-per-click leads, pay per close leads, social media advertising, social media just marketing, TV segments, um, print ads, sphere, um, past clients, referrals.
Mm-hmm. That's a quite an expensive network there that you have, I guess, regarding all of that. How many appointments are you booking with all of these processes roughly per month?
Again, lately it's just been low. It's probably 5 to 10 a week.
5 to 10 a week appointments. So that would be what, about 20 to 40 appointments per month?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And I mean, of course, I wouldn't say that you're happy with that. How many would you want, Michael?
It it all depends on how many convert. I mean, 5 to 10 is fine, but if I'm not getting offers, I'm not getting closings, then I obviously need more to play the numbers game.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And are out of the 20 to 40 appointments you're currently having, Michael, how many of them fit the criteria of your ideal client that you mentioned earlier? If that makes sense.
Um, I mean, it changes. I have some clients that started with a realistic budget and then dropped it to where it's not realistic anymore, so that kind of dropped them out. Um, some clients know their numbers really well and just aren't ready to pay the current market pricing. They see the market, you know, having some downturn in pricing, but not on the homes that they're looking at. Um, so it's maybe a third quarter.
Mm-hmm. So about 25%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And okay, so if we get you, let's say you get 10 qualified appointments or 10 appointments, you would say that about 10 of them, out of 10 of them, 25% would be, I guess, qualified that would fit your criteria. Am I correct in saying that?
I mean, that's based on what I'm getting now. I mean, I've had lead sources where I get 40 leads and I get zero, you know, qualified appointments, zero closings. So I'm not going to say that's across the board.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I agree. And if you get, let's say you get 10 qualified appointments, the ones that you want, how many do you believe you can close, I guess, in a period of how long it takes you to close?
Um, I mean, if the inventory is there and they're realistic, I'd say half.
Mm-hmm. It's about like 50% closing rate. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's very impressive, Michael. And is there, I guess, anything you think might be contributing some of them not being the ideal client you're looking for? Because you mentioned you have plenty of systems in place. Do you think there's anything in your system that you're currently doing that might be contributing to, some of them not being what you're looking for?
No, I mean, nothing's 100%. Um, but then again, a lot of people want to sell. I have several people who want to sell, but what they want isn't out there. So that's not their fault necessarily. It's just the market.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand. And out of the 20 to 40 appointments let's say directly you took last month, how many of those are like in the onboarding process, if that makes sense?
Um, Depends what you mean by onboarding, but
So what I was trying to explain here is in terms of the progression to being closed, how many of them would you say are on the path to be closed, if that makes sense?
presently only three.
And I know you mentioned that 20 to 40 is not typically for you, but like right now is from 20 to 40 that you get, is that something like you would consider typical right now in a current situation that you have, or
No, I'm slow, so
okay,
everything is lower than it should be, lower than typical.
okay, I understand. Okay, so to me it seems like, I guess, the biggest issues here are, of course, the just like you mentioned earlier, qualified appointments, people that are, in terms of sellers, are realistic in terms of their pricing. And I guess, would you agree with me on that?
Hmm?
So I just mentioned that to me, the biggest issue here is that you're experiencing sellers that are probably not realistic, just like you mentioned. And to me, that seems like being currently the biggest issue. Do you agree with me on that, or is there something else that I missed?
I mean, it's an issue. I don't know if it's the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm. And I guess then, have you worked with anyone in the past to address some of these issues? Of course, right now getting yourself to the 300K a year.
I mean, I've reached that goal before. It's every year has been different. So
Mm-hmm.
things that worked before don't work now. Things that, you know, buyers had plenty of money in 2020 and 2021. So everything was, the issue there was just trying to get in as fast as possible. but now like we don't have multiple offers on, but maybe 10%. Everything else is sitting. Days on market has doubled on the inventory that's out there. New construction is offering lower interest rates, which is encouraging some buyers to go that way, but then they don't like maybe the new inventory location or the amenities or the size or the bedrooms or whatever the finishes. So it's an interesting situation. I mean, we have more inventory now than we did 8 months ago, but it's not the inventory that necessarily people want.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And there's, that's quite expensive. I guess since you mentioned that you've reached the 300K mark, have you worked with anyone in the past in terms of like maybe any other agencies or companies that can, I guess, helped you with that?
Mm, I mean, I've done plenty of lead generation platforms. Most of them haven't panned out for anything. Um, we've done marketing platforms. We've done ISAs. We've done website development. We've done social, asset um, SEO optimization. We've tried lots of options, but most of them have not panned out and have been shedded.
Mm-hmm. Just take a step back here. You're mentioning we, and earlier you mentioned that it's just yourself. Like, did I hear something wrong, or are you alone? Like, I'm sorry, I don't understand very well.
I mean, presently I'm alone, but it's like in the course of the 10 years, I've had people as partners or business partners or whatever, and that's just where we are today, or
Mm-hmm.
where I am today.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying. And you mentioned that you tried several different things. I guess regarding you mentioned their lead generation software. I guess in that aspect, like what did that entail? How can you describe the process? Like what was promised? How did it look like?
Wait, describe what?
I was mentioning that you mentioned that you have worked with lead generation agencies, lead companies in the past, and I was just curious, like, can you explain that process? Like, how did it look like? What was promised? Just so I can get a better understanding of what exactly happened.
I mean, there's probably been 20 at least in the last 10 years, so it's been every pitch imaginable, all sounding similar. No, we're not that way. We're different. Oh, you've used us 5 years before, but oh, when was that? Oh, 6 years, 4 years ago, we've changed everything. Well, and then, whatever. Some are pay per click, some are pay per lead, some are you buy 10 leads a month and they don't work, you get reimbursed the lead, and some are seller leads only, some are buyer leads only, some are, call lists, some are expired leads, some are for sale by owners. I mean, it's been the gamut, and they all essentially add up to zero.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you work with at least 20 different agencies. I guess what do you feel like was missing there in order to, of course, get you to where you want to be?
And I guess the quality of the lead. I mean, they're they're not doing anything that's you know in some cases truly vetting a lead, I guess. But then ones that do vet the lead didn't work either. So
Hmm. And I mean, you tried it for 20 times. That's impressive. I guess what kind of made you say again and again, again, I'll try again, I'll try again? Like what kept you, you know, I guess what kept you striving to work with them, if that makes sense.
I mean, I gave all of them generally 3 to 6 months run rate, and when I'm still paying money, I'm not getting money, then I shed it, and I usually try and do that only a couple at a time, like one or two at a time. That way, the ones that my systems that are working, uh, can hopefully pay for that and cover that. But I've lately kind of not done any lead generation systems, um, and just done more marketing to try and generate leads. But that's also not necessarily panned out as much. But it's giving me brand awareness for some things, but it's not necessarily giving me ROI yet.
Mm-hmm. And since you tried marketing, how long have you been in that space in terms of marketing to get the appointment?
Depends on which one. The TV spots we've done a year and a half. The magazine articles have been a year and a half. The social media has been off and on, not as consistent, but I usually did it pretty heavy for 6 to 9 months, and then took a couple, maybe a month or two off, um, from being truly consistent. Um, Web pages, I've tried 3 or 4, and they never panned out, so I dropped most of those. Um,
Mm-hmm. And in terms of social media that you mentioned, you went in pretty heavily for 6 to 9 months. I guess how did that plan out? Like how did that? What were the results?
More followers, more views, no conversions.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that happened?
I don't know.
And the social media aspect, just so I can kind of get a better understanding here. You said you went in pretty heavily. Did you do that? You're like yourself, or you hired someone to do it for you?
Both.
Both. And from which aspect, from which I guess direction did you get better results?
ROI was 0 for both. Um, More views, more followers was when I did it myself.
Mm-hmm. And the other side, were there any benefits?
No.
No. Okay, I understand. And since you went in pretty heavily, can I ask, like, what does that mean?
Time commitment
Time commitment.
and money spent and so on.
Mhm. And in terms of money spent during the period of 6 to 9 months, how much did you spend, if I may ask?
I don't know offhand. It was, yeah, I don't know offhand. It was probably at least 50 to 100 a week, depending on what I was posting, what I was working toward.
So about $50 to $100 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I guess you've done that for a reason. Do you, right now, at the moment where you're currently at, do you believe you can find the people that you tend to work with on social media?
I know others have had success, so, and it's cheaper than most of these lead services that I've tried. So that's why I gave it a go and still try to maintain something, even if not as consistent or as heavy as I was doing.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And I guess in terms of social media, like what platforms were you using?
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And out of those three, which one had the most success? I mean, I know you mentioned that nobody gave you an ROI, but I guess which one did you like the most?
Um, I don't know, probably more geared toward Facebook versus the other two.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, with that in mind, with everything that you said, I guess you tried a lot of things, and I guess what is the reason behind looking for potential help with this now instead of just, doubling down on what you've been doing and again figuring this out on your own?
Trying to get more automated in some ways and not do as much groundwork, but every time I've attempted it, it doesn't work. So I should just, I don't know, I probably shouldn't have the conversations, but since right now everything is slow, I'm grasping for something to try that might be different.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And I mean, from what I understand here, it's, correct me if I'm wrong. To me, it looks like, it might be in terms of time management that you'd like to have more time. Am I correct in saying that?
More balance.
More balance. So like more like work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand. And I guess I just, want to make sure that what we have here can actually help you. What do you feel like you need the most out of a program or a service right now in order to help you to where you want to be?
Conversion.
Conversion. Okay. And what is the, realistically speaking, what is the conversion rate you're looking for?
I mean, if it can't generate, well, it all depends on price, I guess, but ideally to make it worthwhile for the time, I'd like to get it to probably 2 to 3 deals a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, I understand. So, and you mentioned that, the goal was just to reach it again was 300 per year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're now at 200, right?
Last year I was.
Last year it was. Yeah. Sorry, I apologize. Is I guess, then the 300, I guess, I mean, short term or the long term goal?
I mean, I would like to get that this year and then build on that by, you know, keeping things easier with, again, being able to be in control of time.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And I guess just so I can kind of get simple here, I guess, what would you say would be then the long term goal? Like, where do you really want to be looking in the future?
Um, I mean, it's all about efficiency. If I can cut down either time chasing deals or um, expenses to, return a deal, then either of those would be fine and stay at about the same amount gross. But I mean, going to, 5, 6, 7, even a million would be fine. It's not something I have to have at this time, but
Mm-hmm. Okay. I appreciate the transparency. I guess why the I know you mentioned you don't need to have it, but like, why did you mention a million?
mm, I don't know, just a goal, I guess, long term to say. But
Mm-hmm.
if I don't want to kill myself to get a million. So if I can keep down budget and keep down time and clear 5, 6, then I'd be probably still good with that.
Mm-hmm. And I guess what would you, if you do, I mean, if everything goes according to plan and you reach million, maybe you mentioned 5 to 6 million, I guess what would you do with that, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, Invest it usually.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and let's say then, we get your problem solved. You're now at 300. 400K per year with the business instead of 200 that you were last year, and you're now in a position to be more time efficient, to have the work life balance that you desire. I guess what do things look like for you then?
Um, kind of, the same, just building it and trimming costs or saving on time, but that's all what it really boils down
Mm-hmm.
to.
Okay.
if
And
I can if I can get three, then obviously that will hopefully be able to help me build to four, then five, and then if I can, I can not be chasing, I can shed some of the other things I'm doing because they're not working, or maybe, you know, or either they become working, then I can keep them. If they're not working, I shed them. Then that gets me more net in the end, and that saves me the time from doing those other things. So that all works out.
mm-hmm. Okay.
So that
Um,
three, four, five becomes more valuable than the two, three now.
mhm. And having 3, 4, 5, I guess, what would that do for you, personally, on a more personal level? Like what would that do?
Just open opportunities to invest and live how I want to live.
Mhm. And I guess, how would it feel to finally get the 3, 4, 5 that you wanted? How would it feel knowing that now you can invest, you can have more time, you can be more efficient? How'd that feel?
Good.
Good? Is it not great?
Yeah. Great.
Great. I mean, are you sure? Is there something else
Mhm.
that you might want, or
No, I mean, I would travel more, I'd invest more, and you know, live life I want to live.
okay, okay. And I guess then, with the current process you have in place right now, of course, you mentioned marketing, you mentioned televisions, you mentioned magazines, you mentioned everything, but still kind of having the struggle to just finding the realistic sellers and essentially qualified people. How close do you honestly feel you are to achieving 300K per year and having the chance to invest, have more time, be more efficient? How close do you feel you are?
Given the current market, um, I can maybe squeak there. If things, interest rates get better or people do actually start buying with warmer temperatures, spring, fall, or spring, summer, tax returns, etc., then um, it will definitely be easier to get there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand. And I just kind of want to ask you, how much longer do you want to be running the business in the way you currently are?
I mean, being a realtor, you know, easy 20 years. Um, the way I currently am, I mean, again, if I can get more balance and not be chasing stuff, that would always be better.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And for you, like, what does it look like if for you moving forward, if what does it look like if you keep doing the things the way you are, if that makes sense? Like, what does it look like if you keep doing just the things you are right now?
Just kind of more chasing, more waiting for, you know, things to fall into place given the market, the society, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Not
And
less in control.
mm-hmm. And is that something you're willing to sell it for?
I mean, it's not something I want to sell for.
Why not?
Why would you want to?
Of course, I agree with you. So I guess is now the time to do something about this, or is now the time to make a change?
Depends what the change is.
Of course. Right. So I guess, based on what we've discussed, if we had to get specific here and really dial this down, what specifically do you feel you need our help with? Just to, just really pinpoint it.
Conversion.
Okay. Okay, got it. So, I feel like that's me then question wise. I've got a solid understanding of yourself, your business, and what it is that you're looking for specifically, to get to 300K per year and later on a million and plus. And finally having the time to invest, have more work time balance, have more efficiency, and finally, I guess, stop having these issues of being maybe overworked. And from what you told me, I definitely feel like we can help. So, with your permission, I guess I just like to walk you through what we have here, our process, our structure, and give you clarity on what exactly we do and how I feel we can help. How does that sound?
Fine. How long do you think it's gonna take?
It might take about 5, 10 minutes ish to explain it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen right now. So just let me know if you can see it here. Can you see it? Okay, awesome. So just quickly about us. We're Rich Media. Ante Matijevic is actually our founder and the CEO. I'm just one of the co-owners. Essentially here at Rich Media, we basically help real estate agencies and realtors get those qualified appointments, get those qualified showings that they're looking for, and essentially save them time so they don't have to do any work besides closing them, talking to them efficiently. And here's our offer. So, firstly, we have the targeted marketing section. So, we use a combination of both Meta, so Facebook, and Google to actually ensure that you and yourself can reach the new audience, can reach the new qualified audience, and later on deliver the promised results. Now, since of course it's 2025, we have also implemented the AI automations. So it's like artificial intelligence that automates CRM. It does better at client tracking and processing than humans can, and essentially it saves time and boosts the efficiency. And the third segment here is the local visibility. So you're not only going to get you what you want, so you're not only going to get you the conversion rates that you're looking for, and of course the qualified showings, it's going to boost your visibility and your name in your city. So you will be, I guess, you would be shown to more people what you do and your quality of work to more people so you can get what you're looking for. And here's the plan. So, of course, like everyone, we use PPC. It's targeted meta and Google ads that ensure the, of course, effective client acquisition and just generally efficiency. ISAs, we do have everything with ourselves, so we have our own chain sales agents that help as well to track and to qualify and to nurture everything. So it just ensures that the conversion rate is as high as it can get. Now with the CRM, I'm pretty sure you're familiar. It in this case it is automated, so it's organizes contacts, automates messages. Everything is strictly following the system and the structure that we give it, and that just overall boosts the efficiency, right? And here is just kind of how the stages would look like. So the first stage, of course, is just the testing phase, and of course the CRM implementation. So we make sure that what we do, we can actually have solid data on, and we can focus on where to get you people that would have the highest conversion rates. The second stage, of course, is the acquisition of those type of people. And of course, the would analyze the quality of an individual so we can determine which one is more fit to work with you. And the third stage and final stage is after we got everything set in, after we get everything set up and going, then we optimize and of course do some additional advertising segments that would benefit from it. So that is it. If you have any questions, you can ask me. If you want to go back on any slides, I can. Feel free to ask.
I mean, it's how is yours different than the 20 I've tried?
So the way that this is different is that we're not a big company. That's the first thing. We're actually I would argue that we're a small team, but very dedicated team. So to us, you're not a number. You're actually an individual that we strive to deliver best results, and we really do tend to care the most on the client satisfaction before our own very satisfaction, because later on we would benefit more from it as well. That's the first thing, right? And the second thing is that the individuals that we have in our team, you can, and this is what we offer, is that you can meet every single one of them. You can determine if, of course, there's someone you want to work with, and you can actually see their expertise in the work that we do. And this is where we're very open-minded. We listen to suggestions from both sides, and we ensure and of course thrive to get the best results for both sides, making it fair and making it highly efficient. Does that make sense?
I mean, okay.
Is there something you might want to also ask me?
I mean, I don't know if that really answers my question, but I mean, yes, being smaller could be better. I don't know that some of these other companies were necessarily big or small that I've tried before. So whether or not that's better or not, is what it is. As far as being able to meet people, I mean, that could have some benefit, but not necessarily. That's good for rapport and communication, but not necessarily translates to results.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know if that completely answers the question as far as how is it better than how is it more um, dialed in? How is it more efficient? How is it gonna qualify make them qualified prospects that are not the same ones I'm getting from all these other methods and things over the years. How is it going to convert to sales given the present market? Because like making something work in the hard market is the obviously the most challenging. Making something work in the easy market is easy. So
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So the way that we ensure the quality, of course, is first that we maximize the quality rather than quantity. That's the first thing. The other thing is that all of our experts here in marketing have graduated marketing departments, have verifications, and have report with clients that we currently have in terms of success and success rate. So I believe you're very, very knowledgeable of marketing since you've done something like that yourself. Any questions that you might have, any in terms of like, I wouldn't say challenging, but giving them questions to verify them yourself, if they're, of course, someone you're willing to work with, that can be done. Just like I mentioned before, we're very open minded. So our experts can be tested by you if you want to actually see and, of course, test them on just how good they are. And the other thing here is that the people that we work with and the people that work for us, essentially the experts in marketing, are always up to date with in terms of Facebook, in terms of marketing. So every time, and that's quite frequent, every time Facebook or Google releases a update, we compare it to how it would benefit every single one of our clients that we currently have, how you could potentially maximize the efficiency if we should implement that, and all of that you can talk, and you can of course test our experts, just like I mentioned before. This is something that can only really be shown. So, like I said, we're very open minded, and if that's something that, of course, you're willing to do, that can be done. If that makes sense, Michael.
okay.
Okay. So then, I guess in terms of like questions about our systems or anything else, do you have anything else to ask?
I mean, it's all theoretical at this point.
Of course. So then, I guess I know this might be a little bit cheesy question, but just for some clarity on my end, how do you feel about the program? I know, like I said, I know it's a cheesy question, but I guess if we were to put this on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say 1 being, I don't think this is going to work for me, this is not going to help, and 10 being, this is exactly what I'm looking for, let's go. Where do you feel like, where do you feel you fall exactly?
I mean, since I'm jaded and I guess it's not proven to me, and so on, I'd probably put it somewhere in the middle.
Can you maybe pinpoint it for me? Like what number would you say?
5, 6.
5, 6. And what does 7 or 8 look like for you?
I don't know. Like I said, I think it just requires. I just, I don't know. There's a lot more questions asked, than usual. I don't know if that generated anything different in a pitch, but the pitch sounded very similar still in many facets. But since they all generated 0, I'm not going to be naive and be like, this is going to be, you know, gangbusters out the gate. So,
Well, thank you for your transparency. But I guess in terms of what would you like to see, is there anything in your mind where what you would have placed on the scale of, again, from 1 to 10? Like, what would you place to be a 7? What would you place to be an 8? Or what would you place to be a 1? Let's take a step back here. Let's change it. What would be a 1 for you? Or a 2?
I mean, I'd probably put that more in the companies I've tried, and then they ask you, how long ago did you try, and then like, oh, we just updated everything. That's probably a 1, 2.
I understand. And going back on the 7s and 8s and 9s, like, do you have anything on top of your mind? What would you say, yeah, this would be an 8 for me? Just something that you have on your mind right now. Is there anything like that?
Without results, probably not.
And how would you go on about doing that regarding the results part?
I can look at the cost and see if it's something I want to stick my neck out again.
I understand. So, I mean, I guess to just go on about here, I mean, how do you generally feel about this? Like, talking about everything that we have so far, like, how do you feel about everything we told?
5, 6.
5, 6. Okay, so I guess what would be the next step right now?
I mean, you can show me the plans or whatever that looks like, and then see if it's something to try out or pass it this time.
I understand. And just if you give me a second here, this is something that I might not, I probably shouldn't do, but I can show you some results that we've got for one of our clients. Let me just check, just to, make it more comfortable with you. I will go on here. I will go here and okay. Okay. Okay, and should do this here. Okay, so this should be here. Okay, let me just turn this off and okay. So what campaign is this? Okay. This is where this should have update. I'm having just some issues here. Okay, this is it. Okay. And this. Okay, so I'm going to share a screen right now of the current progress we have with one of our luxury clients. And we're actually going to show you the amount of just the leads that we've received. And give me a second. Okay, so I'm going to show you here what I've got. Okay, present now and okay, right. Okay, can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this was just the progress that we got them in just a month. So this is just a ad set that we use. So we basically spent only about $400 here, and it's just a property under 1 million that we were listing for a period of a month. And out of those $420, if I recall that, it was essentially 3 qualified appointments, and essentially after 4.5 months, they closed a transaction. And what we made sure here is that they not only just send them listings, they're actually active in conversations with them. And this is where we actually took a part here. We did all of that for them. So that later turned on into a closing. And this is something that we did over a year ago. And I'm just showing it to you right now because I'm allowed to show this. So in all the aspects, I'm just showing you just some sort of, I guess, results that you're looking for. This is the only thing I can show that I'm allowed to by Ante. Probably shouldn't have showed you this, but just for your convenience, right? So this is just how it looks, okay? Do you have any questions here?
So you said after how many months?
So after a month, this was just for 1 month, as you can see. This was just for 1 month, and over the period of that month, we spent $420. We got them out of 75 leads that we got from this particular ad, this particular campaign. We got 3 qualified appointments, 3 appointments they were looking for that we agreed on. And out of that 3, we helped them, of course, qualify and later on close that one deal that was, I believe, was about $750,000. And that took about 4.5 months. And it was just from 1 month. Does that make sense?
So in 4.5 months, you closed one deal.
We helped them
based on
close.
1 month.
Yes. So out of the 75 that we've given them from 1 month, so this is just 1 month. This is not the whole time we were working together. From the first month only, we've given them essentially later on 1 deal, and later on it turned to more. But I'm just showing you the first month, which I'm allowed to show. Later on, it turned to be more. If you want, I can maybe give you the specifics, but I'll just have to check that out on my computer.
I mean, yes, that's better than 0, but it's not necessarily impressive.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And I guess just to talk about this a little, we've invested $420, and from those $420 they invested in the first month only, From those $420, they found a
You invested
listing.
420. How much did they invest?
They were paying for this. They didn't give me a penny. This was take, of course, as you know, as Facebook works, they deducted it every single day from their account. So this was just their money that was spent, $420. And out of the
Right, but how much did
$420,
they spend your company? What was the all-in cost
the all-in
for the
cost
4.5 months to get the first closing?
I'm sorry, for the 2.5 months to get the first closing. Did I
Four
hear
and a
that?
half months to get the first closing.
So this was the agreement. So the agreement was 6 months, 6 months, and the pricing was $5,000 in total, which was promised. It was later on, of course, negotiated to $5,000. In the first 6 months, what was agreed on is to guarantee them 2 closed deals. So that would be, in this case, since their average pricing was around 7 to 1 million, we've given them, even from the first month, we managed to give them one, but later on we actually delivered four. So they made a ROI if we take a look at it that way. And we help them through the whole process of closing, to keeping in touch with their qualified person. We just managed to help them and do all the communication, did everything. We gave them advice on what they could do, and that turned into a closed deal. If that clarifies your question, I apologize, I didn't understand that quite well.
So they gave so a 6-month contract for this client was $5,000.
Yeah.
They paid 420 in the first month. They paid more in subsequent months, obviously.
Hmm.
And the 6 months they got 4 closings.
That is correct. I would argue that it might be 3 to 4 because this was over a year ago. On top of mine, can't give you accurate information, but it's 3 to 4. Yes. Do you have any questions? If you want, I can break down the pricing that we used with them then. So if you want, I could do that for you.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. So the deal that was negotiated was $5,000. So half went to the marketing, half went to us. So that's 2,500. Out of those 2,500, so if we take that by number of 6, that was $416-ish per month on ads, and that later resulted in 3 to 4 closed deals. And with the 2,500, we just ensured everything worked correctly. We did all of the efficiency work, and everything went accordingly. Does that make sense?
So the 412 came out of the 2,500, or that was in addition to?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
The
that.
412 was in addition to the 2,500.
So it was 5 in total, and 2.5 was for ads, 2.5 went to us. So that's 5 in total. There's no any other hidden fees or anything like that. Everything was on the paper.
Right, but you said the way Meta ads work is they're going to build my card. So they're not coming out of the 5K, they're coming out of an additional source of funds.
So okay, yeah, I understand what you're asking. So the 5,000, 2.5 was going directly from them. So they were spending on it, and that resulted into $416 a month. And 2.5 went to us. So they spent 2,500, and we received 2,500. That's how it worked. That's how it worked. There were no upfront, and I mean, there were no additional fees there. So 5,000, the money was deducting from their account, and essentially that's how it worked. It was deducting from their account, and it resulted in 416, sometimes a little bit more, but I'm just giving a rough average from their account. That's
But that's
that.
not the way Meta ads work. Meta ads would debit from a credit card that I give them.
Correct. That's how it worked. I'm sorry. What what part was maybe misunderstood?
So if I say yes in this model, I'm only giving you 2,500, and then I have 2,500 allocation on a credit card that Meta is going to draw from.
That is correct. As in Meta, you can give them your credit card, and from that credit card, the money will be deducted. Now, you can do that for yourself, or we could do that for you. It totally depends up to you. But if you do decide to give us that 25 so we can measure for you, you'll basically be able to see it from day one on how it's being spent, if that's something you're willing to do. If not, it can be deducted from your credit card that you give them. Yes.
Okay. So then how does this fit with Google Ads?
So this in this case, they've only done Facebook. They've only decided to go with Facebook. With Google, it would be another 2.5 with that, if that is the decision that's being made. We do recommend it, of course. Some people they want to do 2.5 only first for Facebook for the first 6 months, and then maybe they want to add on later. Just like I mentioned in my presentation, later on we do budget optimizations and improve where we can.
Okay.
Okay. Now, is there maybe anything else you'd like me to ask while we're here? Anything specific? Anything maybe to give you some clarity?
So if I was trying to get the 2 to 3 deals to make it worth it a month, so that'd be 18 in 6 months. Is that possible?
So, as you might know, in the terms of Facebook and in terms of testing, the first month there cannot be any guarantees. But with the Facebook, it's important to be consistent with it. So of course, systems can adjust to your preferences. And like I mentioned before, their average price was between 700 to 1 million. And with you, it's a little bit different. You said that you want 500K deals. So for you, it could be a minimum of 6 deals closed in those 6 months. From my estimate, from my experience, 6 deals is what can be expected as a minimum. You said you want 18, and 18 can definitely happen. It's all matter of time and, of course, consistency. If you want, I can actually get your founder here. Maybe not right now, but I can get in a conversation with them and you can talk about this with him. He's the overall overseer of everything. So if you want some more confirmation, you can get it from him if that's something that you're willing to do. That's completely fine by us. And he would be actually more than he would be more actually willing to do this than anyone else that we have here.
So all your leads are only coming from Meta or Google Ads?
Yes, that is correct. Well, what we do also can offer, but that's just later on if everything works, is we do later can offer, also this runs on Instagram just because it's the same company, but we later can offer as well YouTube, but we only offer that after the period of 6 months, after we've seen that things work with Facebook, then we can only be sure that it would work as well for YouTube, if that makes sense to you, Michael. If you're looking for something specific here, I can, if I'll have to first think if I can show you that. But if you're looking for something specific, you can ask me, or we can talk about something else that I haven't planned here, some other steps or questions that I would like to ask.
Well, I have a few more minutes, so. Um. So if you can't deliver on the, let's say 6, then what does that mean?
So that's a great question. So this is what comes into play. So in those 6 months, after actually those 6 months, we offer a guarantee. That means that if you don't make ROI on what you invested with us, we return everything that you invested back to you, plus additional $2,000 just so we can make it for your time spent with us. That's our guarantee.
Which again is only 2,500.
So if you give us 2,500 and we don't deliver, on top of that, we give you another $2,000 after 6 months if you don't make ROI, if you don't make more than 5K.
Yeah. So the bar is set at 1 closing, basically.
Essentially. And just like you mentioned before, and like what we agreed on, we can get a minimum of 6. So the chances of you actually only getting 1 is extremely, extremely small. And I talk from experience here.
All right, I got 10 minutes. Well, she got, and then we have to reconvene.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing here. So what I wanted to just ask you, okay, so just in the terms of a systems and just generally talking about systems, putting a price aside, do you think these systems can actually help you get to 300K a year?
I mean, if it's 6 deals, it would help. If it Boston's 0-1 deal, then not
Mm-hmm.
gonna help me any more or less.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand. But let's say then, theoretically, that it does happen. Everything I say here is true, and we can get a minimum of 6 deals, right? Like, would that be worth the the whole of 5K that you invested in us? If you do essentially get those 6 deals, would that be worth the investment?
I mean, it should be.
You don't sound so sure. What does that mean?
Again, I mean, 2,500 plus 2,500 ad spend should be worth 6 deals. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and just to, I guess, take a step back, you said you believe these systems can help you if everything I said is true, correct?
That's the faith part.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And just to clarify, if it doesn't help you, make sure that the money is returned back to you. There's a guarantee in place so you don't lose anything. And on top of that, you actually make like $500 in this case. So just to kind of pinpoint this out, it's 125. It's highly difficult for you not to make an ROI, especially with us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting in upwards of 5, and I'm getting 45 back. So as a safety net, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So I guess then, are we are we ready to get in, get rolling, get started with this, or you have something else that you want to ask?
I mean, it's still based on faith, and I haven't had the best of luck with Meta and Google Ads, but I can, I guess, stick my neck out for 2,500.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, look, Michael, if you're okay with this, if you want to do this, you want to get closer and potentially to 300K, and later on, once you see the results that we deliver, reach with that 1 million mark, we can get started. I'll just contact the owner, the founder, Ante, and we can get you onboarding. We can schedule a onboarding call next week. Maybe even tomorrow if you want.
No, not the weekend. Next week would be better.
Okay. Okay. So, like, what does your schedule look like for next week?
Not Monday. As of right now, Tuesday or Wednesday are flexible.
Okay. So let's do something Tuesday. And just to give you a heads up, the founder Ante will send you an invoice where you can. So just to get my mind clear on this, you're paying us 2.5 for us, and 2.5 would be deducted from your credit card. Am I correct in saying that?
That's how I understood it.
Yes. If you want, you can give us the other part, and we can manage it for you. That totally depends on what you want, Michael. Totally depends. We can manage it for you, so you can take your mind off of it, and we can do it all for you. And you can basically see how money is being spent from day one. It just depends on you. So just so I can kind of get a better understanding, it's either if you want me to send you a 5K invoice or 2,500 invoice to your email.
2.5.
Okay, 2.5 works. Okay. And Tuesday, what time we're looking for?
I have times morning or afternoon.
Okay. Let's mornings. Do you want to do something? Oh, you mentioned afternoon. How does the afternoon look like for you? And tonight, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? What's your preference?
Prefer closer to 1.
Okay, closer to 1. Okay. Closer to 1. Okay. So I'll be sending you the invite straight away with your email that you have. And is it good if the founder Ante sends you the invoice on the email that you've given me, the paulsonsrealty@gmail.com?
That's fine.
Okay. I've seen that you found him online. That's him. You can go through all of the videos you want. He has YouTube channels as well. So if everything is okay, I don't want to too much of your time. Then I'll send you. Ante will actually send you the invoice for 2,500, and we'll get you in and started on Tuesday at 1 o'clock your time. That works?
Sure.
Okay. Awesome then. Well, I'm glad you said yes. See you soon.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Bye.